What's up, mathematicians? Today we're talking about percent word problems. Sometimes percent word problems can be a little bit daunting, but the more we practice, the better we get. Now, I hope you all can hear me. I've got a little bit of a raspy voice because I am fighting a cold that does not seem to want to go away, but I'm going to keep trying to fight it. Anyway, let's get to it with this problem that I gave my students in math group, my students this week. Alana's teacher gave the class a pop quiz in social studies. Alana answered 8 out of 9 questions correctly. What percent of the questions did she answer correctly? So the first thing I need to do is figure out what proportion we're talking about. We are talking about 8 out of 9 questions correctly. And one way to write 8 out of 9 is 8 out of 9. We can write it as a fraction. Now, it's important to know that step because it helps us understand how to get to the next step of long division to get to the answer. Now, in order to get the percentage, we need to convert this fraction to a percent. How do we do that? Well, we need to know how to do long division with decimals. Now, a lot of my students, will sometimes mistakenly start their long division problem like this because they look and see that 9 is the larger number, so they automatically make 9 the dividend and 8 the divisor, but this is, no, this is just wrong. So I don't want you to do that. Remember, when you are converting a fraction to a decimal, the numerator, is always the dividend, the number inside the house. And I like to go 3 decimal places out. I like to put in 3 zeros there. So we've got 8.000. And I'll explain why that is in a moment. And then we're going to divide by 9. Now, this is the method. I use standard algorithm for long division with decimals, but you might use the box method or another method. And any of them are fine as long as you're comfortable with them. Let's get to it. I'm going to divide 8.000 by 9. So use the color purple. How many times does 9 go into 8? It can't. Now we ignore the decimal when we're doing this part of the long division. We say, how many times does 9 go into 80? Well, 9 goes into 88 times. Now we do the next step. 9 times 8 is 72. Then we subtract, we get 8, bring down, we get 0. Oh, I see a pattern developing. Do you see the pattern? Constantly bringing down 8 and getting 0. So our answer is 0.888, or you could throw in that 0 if you want, 0.888. So now we know 8/9 equals 0.888. I typically tell my students to round to the nearest whole number once in percent form, or once in decimal form or percent form, but I like to deal with whole numbers. And so what the strategy that I use to convert a decimal to a percent and then round is I usually try to go 3 digits out past the decimal because that allows me to convert it to a whole number percent. And I just move that decimal point 2 spaces over. So now I have 88.8%. But if we're going to round to the nearest whole number percent, it's going to actually be 89%. So what percent of the questions did Alana answer correctly? She answered 89% of them correctly. She got an 89% on her pop quiz. So there you have it. Now, side note, and I'll just share this with you if you don't already know this, this hack or this trick. Whenever you have a fraction with a 9 on the bottom, let's say any fraction with 9 on the bottom. If it's 1, if it's 3, if it's 9. No, we won't do 9 over 9. That's different. 8. To convert it to a decimal, it ends up being the numerator repeated over and over and over again. So this would be 0.1, constantly repeating. This would be 0.3, always repeating. And 8/9 would actually be 0.8 and always repeating, or which is also 0.88888, and it keeps going on and on and on. And this bar at the top just means that it repeats. So I already knew that trick. So technically, once I saw 8 out of 9, I could have just converted it to 0.888 and then made it 88.8%, which then would have been 89%. So one thing I do want to go over just for a second here is, why does 0.888 equal 88.8%? Well, remember, this part here equals 88 out of 100, right? A percent is basically out of 100. So we have 88 out of 100. And then here we have, in this spot here, we've got 88 out of 100. And then we've also got these other decimals. We've got 8 out of 1,000. And because we are rounding, this number rounds the 8 in the 88 up, so that we round it up to 89 out of 100, and then we have 89%. So I hope that didn't confuse you. Again, this is one of those things that when you practice and practice and practice and do a lot of these problems, it becomes second nature, meaning it becomes like an automatic thing that you don't even have to think about after a while. It just happens naturally, or automatically, I should say. Let's do this next problem. Jonas bought a 4-pound bag of dog food for his dog. He fed his dog 1 pound of dog food in just one day. What percent of dog food did Jonas feed his dog? Well, sounds like he fed his dog 1 pound of the dog food when he had a 4-pound bag. So 1 out of 4. Now remember, this fraction bar, which can also be a division bar, is synonymous with the language of out of. He fed his dog 1 pound out of 4 pounds of dog food. And it's important to understand that step. If you don't, at least if you're in my class, come see me and we will talk, because I want to make sure that you understand how to convert the word problem to a fraction, which then allows us to use long division to convert the fraction to a decimal. Now, I happen to know how to easily convert 1/4 to a percent. I know by memory that 1/4 equals 25%, but let's say you did not know that. There are a few different ways that you could solve this. One way is, we know that 4 is a factor of 100. 4 times 25 equals 100. Which means 1 times 25 also equals 100. So that's one way to solve it. That's a little bit faster than using long division. But let's say you don't know that, and that's okay if you don't. Then you can do the traditional long division way. Again, I'll use standard algorithm because it's kind of my go-to. And I'll do, now remember, what do we put in the house? What's the dividend? It's actually 1.0. I always go 3 zeros out, divided by 4. Please make sure not to make the mistake of putting the 4 as the dividend. Please, please, please. If there's one thing you take away from this video, please remember that. You can divide larger numbers by smaller numbers, and this is how you do it, and you will get a decimal. Let's get to it. How many times does 4 go into 10? It goes into 10 2 times. 4 times 2 is 8. Subtract 10 minus 8. We get 2. Bring down. 0 goes there. How many times does 4 go into 20? 5 times. What's 4 times 5? It's 20, and it looks like we are at the end. Our answer is 0.250, which is the same as 0.25, which is the same as 25%. So Jonas gave his fed his dog 25% of the dog food that he bought. Okay, let's do one more just for kicks. We got this. We got this. All right. Okay, what color should we do? Let's do orange. Orange can be fun. Farah works at a sandwich shop. On Monday, Farah prepared 11 sandwiches for lunch, but only sold 9 of them. What percent of the sandwiches that she prepared was Farah able to sell? So let's think about this. And if you're not sure what the question is asking, I always tell my students, like, draw pictures, take your time, do not rush. Because rushing leads to mistakes, especially if you're not sure. So those are actually terrible pictures. If I'm not sure, I'm going to draw pictures. So I'm going to draw 11 sandwiches. That's one sandwich. These squares will represent sandwiches. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 11. Okay. So there are 11 sandwiches that Farah prepared. But she only sold 9 of them. Or I shouldn't say only. I mean, that's actually a good amount that she sold, I would think. So that means she sold, here's 9. She sold 9 out of the 11. Ah, I see it now. She sold 9 out of 11 sandwiches. And that means that we have our fraction and we can use long division to get to our answer. Let's do it. Now, what number goes in the house? What number is the dividend? If you said to yourself it's 9.000, you would be correct. And we have a double-digit divisor. We're going to throw that over there. Let's do it. How many times does 11... Oh, let's throw our decimal point there. How many times does 11 go into 9? It can't. How many times does it go in... I'll throw a 0 there just for fun. How many times does it go into 90? It goes in 8 times. Why? Because 11 times 8 is 88. I'm now going to subtract and bring down. How many times does 11 go into 20? Only once. What is 11 times 1? It's 11. I'm going to subtract. What is 20 minus 11? Well, it is 9. Bring down. I'm going to do it one more. We're going to go 3 spaces out. How many times does 11 go into 98 times? We already did that. 11 times 8 is 88. What do you know? I kind of see a little pattern developing. And I don't even need to keep going. I've gotten to the number of decimal points that I need to be at. So here's what I've got. 9/11 equals 0.818. What is that as a fraction? Well, it equals 81.8%. But remember, I am rounding. And to round the decimal to the nearest whole number percent, well, we've got 8 here, which is going to cause this 1 to go up. We've got 82%. Going back to my original question, what percent of the sandwiches that she prepared was Farah able to sell? Well, she sold 9 out of 11, which is 82%. And that is all for today. As a reminder, practice makes progress. The more you do this, the more you get used to it, and the less your brain has to stretch and think hard and work hard, because it'll just come naturally. Till next time.